Orpheus was the son of a god and a muse. His mother was Calliope, the muse of poetry and eloquence. His father was the god Apollo. As the progeny of the god of the sun and music, and that of the muse of poetry and eloquence, Orpheus was gifted with extraordinary talents. Orpheus had the gift of music, and early on in his childhood, Apollo presented him with a lyre, and taught him how to play it. And Orpheus learnt to play the lyre to such perfection that nothing could resist the charm of his music. Humans, animals, and gods alike forgot their fierce nature in his presence, and were entranced by his music. The very trees and rocks were not indifferent to the harmonies of his lyre. The music that he made was the very harmony of the world. The entire universe softened its hardness and roughness at the sound of his song. His skills were so superb that he went along with Jason and the Argonauts. He was vital in their quest, for if it was not for him, they would surely all have died. In their famous journey, the Argonauts came across the area where sirens lived. Sirens sing seductive songs to attract sailors and lead them to their death. But when Orpheus played his lyre, his music drowned the sirens' deadly song, allowing him and the Argonauts to sail by without incident. Sometime after his return from the Argonauts' journey, his eyes fell upon the nymph Eurydice. Her beauty enchanted him so that he was instantly bewitched. Equally enthralled by his charm was also the beautiful nymph Eurydice, who answered his courtship. Orpheus married Eurydice in a grove of trees, while the spirits of the forest and of the sky rejoiced with them. Yet their union was not meant to last, for soon after their blessed wedding, Eurydice passes away. Some myths tell that Eurydice dies during their wedding, or soon after from a snake bite. Other myths tell her of enjoying nature with a satyr, or Odysseus, the beekeeper, who was himself a minor god. At the sight of Eurydice, was overcome by lust and raced after her over the fields. Eurydice tried to escape, but in her flight, she wasn't paying attention to her surroundings, and a snake bit her foot and she died. No matter how it happened, Eurydice was dead at the jaws of a snake and its venom. To this, Orpheus was obliterated internally. His lyre, which once could calm the most volcanic fury, or make the most rotten landscape not just seem, but truly be beautiful from a certain perspective, could now only release into the world songs of sorrow. What once could calm now only exacerbated, and what it once made as beautiful as Mount Olympus itself, it was now instead degraded. What happens next is also dependent on the version of the story. He either decided entirely by himself what to do next, or his father Apollo tells him what to do. No matter how it happened, he became determined to bring his love, Eurydice, back from the dead. He searched for many days and nights before finding the entrance to Hades, the underworld, ruled over by the god Hades, which shared the same name. The ferryman Charon, charged with taking newly deceased souls to the underworld, was unwilling to transport a living mortal to Hades. However, his heart was soothed by Orpheus's lyre, and the souls that heard felt sadness for this living man, despite being dead themselves. The next obstacle which Orpheus had to overcome was the three-headed hound, Cerberus, guard to the land of Hades. Cerberus was so powerful that only Heracles battled with it and succeeded. Cerberus was ready to attack, as living mortals were not permitted in the realm of Hades. But Orpheus played his lyre. This, like it did Charon, soothed Cerberus, possibly even putting him to sleep. He passed through hordes of ghosts and spirits until finally he was in front of Hades, the lord of the underworld himself, and his consort, Persephone. Accompanied by the strings of the lyre, Orpheus sang the song of sadness and longing for his lost love. O mighty Hades, king of the underworld, and O beautiful Persephone, princess of the underworld, although I have no right to ask of you, but I must beg of you, with not just my tongue and lyre, but with my very soul, for my fair wife be returned to me, for not only I, but the world misses her grace and splendor. All souls will one day be your subjects. Would it not be of no waste to you to relinquish but one, taken before her time, only for her to return one day? This is all I ask, O rulers of the underworld. As he sang this, he accompanied with his lyre once again, singing a sad tune. This music was not just slow and beautiful, it had something else, something that perhaps only those as talented as Orpheus could create. Something in the music so powerful to all those who heard it. The world kept moving, but they themselves felt as though they were stopped in time. A time when the material world mattered not. A time when what was happening now no longer had any effect on reality. All that mattered was this music being played now and never to be heard again. Hades was full of all types of souls, including souls that had special punishments specifically designed for them. Tantalus was always in view of food and water, but could never eat or drink despite his efforts. Sisyphus was forced to roll a boulder up a hill only for it to roll down again. The daughters of Danaus were required to fill a bottomless receptacle, and most of all, the three Furies, whose very job was to punish those worthy. All of these people were mesmerized by the music. Tantalus stopped in his efforts to satiate himself. Sisyphus stopped pushing his boulder and just let it roll past him. The daughters of Danaus simply stopped and listened, and the fairies forgot their rage for possibly the first and last time. All of them simply listened in silence, and perhaps for the first time in the afterlife, felt something other than misery and pain. Hades, and especially his beloved wife Persephone, were not immune to this. He summoned the spirit of Eurydice, who came with haste among the newly arrived ghosts. Hades then turned to Orpheus and pronounced that he allowed Eurydice to return to life once again, whether a trick of Hades or as a rule of the world that the mighty Hades himself could not change. Orpheus was not allowed to look at Eurydice as they traveled back to the living world. If he did not obey, then Eurydice would be pulled back to Hades and not be able to return. Under this condition, they proceeded on their way, Orpheus leading, Eurydice following, through passages dark and steep in total silence, till they were almost seeing the first rays of light of the upper world and the cheerful sounds of the living. In a moment of either forgetfulness or untrustworthiness, that Eurydice was actually behind him, as he could not hear anything. Orpheus, to assure himself she was following, he cast a glance behind him. Eurydice was there, following behind him, and she was just as beautiful as a spirit as she was in life. Orpheus was mesmerized. This made it substantially larger shock when Eurydice was pulled back to Hades, leaving Orpheus with nothing but regret and his final few images of her beauty, which only made his wallowing more extreme. Orpheus tried to gain access to Hades again, but he could not. He tried for weeks, weeks that became months and possibly years. He mourned for as long, never loving another. He could wander the forests and sing songs of sadness, making the birds go silent, and even the trees to feel emotion. This was not to be permanent, however, only for more tragic reasons. The followers of Dionysus, the Maenads, found him one day. They were drunk on the wine they loved so. They wanted Orpheus to mate with them, but he cared not for such things, and refused them, simply playing his lyre. The Maenads demanded he play a different, happier tune while they danced for their god. But he denied this again. The Maenads had a temper shorter than a snail's foot, and so they went wild. They stoned Orpheus and tore him to pieces with their hands and with their clubs, and sacrificed to Dionysus. Orpheus died there, and his lyre was destroyed by the Maenads. One might assume this death brought him salvation, as he could finally be reunited with his love Eurydice. However, the universe had a different fate in mind. The muses who loved Orpheus's music so much, they kept his head so he might sing forever for them. Not having his soul in Hades, but instead still his head, he was forever kept from his love. And so ends the story of Orpheus and Eurydice.